When I look at like some of the volume and conversation, because Yoshi P states publicly that Sony's helped out with development. If they tried to also release it on PC, the game would be another year or two away. Some of these statements do personally concern me because it makes me kind of wonder if like there's something really broken within Square Enix in terms of like recruiting and having the talent in the pool, and are they like spreading themselves too thin, or do they have the resources necessary? Because like while we will get kickback that Sony's doing this, we know that Sony's writing a check both in terms of their developers and whatnot. The question is does that check make up for the difference in people playing and people buying the game? Because what they're asking for people to do now, where we haven't had this in a while, or at least for a long time, is you're not going to be playing 16. You're going to have to avoid the internet and any reference of 16. Like if you really cared about the story, which guess what? Final Fantasy fans generally, not 100%, but generally care about the story. The risk of you seeing like a short from a highlight of where like some kind of big moment happens where I'm like, oh my gosh, like there's a real risk there in the internet, and trying to avoid and keep this game spoiler free for a year. I could understand a week or two, like there's a reasonable amount of time. This becomes, I think, something kind of in a way I think a little bit unfair. What do you think?
Maybe. I think you don't know what you don't know. So like once you've had something revealed, like it has to be pretty explicit to get it right. A main character death in a trailer, something like that. But showing me a cloak sweep back on a face when I haven't played the game and I don't know what everybody's face looks like, and like, oh, that's this character, and so like you would have to have a much better memory than me to store that for the amount of time that I think it's going to go from all these Final Fantasy 16 clips being in my feed and thumbnails being in my feed to when I actually go hands-on with the game when it finally does come to PC or whatever. Now, if I go click on every single Ginger Prime video about Final Fantasy 16 and I study it, that's why we study for school. Like eventually I would retain the facts. I graduated school, but I didn't get there by glancing at things. I got there by reading it over and over and over and having flashcards. So if I watch 65 YouTube videos and I'm like, wow, the spoiler's really ingrained in my brain now. Yes, but that's the advantage of having the memory of a goldfish. Like people who have a better memory than me. The YouTube Shorts feed is incredibly dangerous. But I'm not personally worried about it. Like just for me, because I'm not going to put Final Fantasy 16 search terms in my algorithm. I'm not going to click on anything with Final Fantasy 16. So the algorithm is very quickly going to mute that for me, assuming I'm not interested.
Right.
And anything that does happen to come across, just like autoplay or something like that, I just won't retain it. There's just too much information that's trying to pass into here every day, and there's just not room.
Yeah. Now, Kraldev says it's also that you can't really join in and have to avoid social conversations like with friends or work colleagues that are going to talk about the game and rave or complain about it depending on how it goes. It will be annoying for a while.
My friends all love the Witcher series. So when a new Witcher comes out, my wife and I rotate what streaming service we're on. Anytime anything new comes out around the Witcher IP, on Netflix or a game or something like that, I don't always get to play it day and date because my wife and I are like, oh, we'll finish the series and then we'll turn on Netflix to kind of keep our budget in fix. And so like I've had to play our Xbox game night. I've had to just text me when you guys are done, guys. And I have to play Call of Duty with my friends on mute. Like I just pull the headphones off for like an hour while they talk about, and that part does suck. So if your friends are all into Final Fantasy 16, that's a different angle. 16 is not something that's going to be wildly pervasive across like my personal friend group, but there are things that are. John Wick movies, anything dealing with The Witcher, anything dealing with Star Wars, anything dealing with Lord of the Rings, those things get talked about day and date. And it's like you really want to be watching that. If you want to take part in the conversation, you want to be watching it the moment it comes out. And so I understand that.
Do you think any of the 16 drama is built off of Forspoken's reception?
Anybody who wants to just take part and hasn't really gone back through like the years of things going into this and doesn't know Yoshi P and all that, like Square Enix just released an RPG. Wasn't it terrible? What was it called for something for awful? I don't know. And so yes, there's gonna be like, because it's a real complaint. When I was in college, I went to Texas Tech, and there was a game where we were excited to beat our opponents and we were leading. at the end of the game with just seconds to spare. We took possession of the ball, and everybody assumed that meant we won. And so there was a great enough number of people that thought that an enormous number of fans climbed the walls and rushed the field. They then had to clear the field and issue a penalty to our team because the game wasn't over. And there was technically still a way for the opposing team to win. They did not end up winning. We did end up winning, and then we rushed the field again. But I was sitting up in the field going, what are they doing? The game's not over. And I was sitting there with your brother. We were college roommates. And we were like, what are they doing? And like everybody's running by us. We won! And we're like, I don't think we did. Like there's still a lot of time left. And so when I went to a bowl game at a friend's that I grew up with's college, I went there and I watched us play. One of his friends said, well, at least we don't rush the field before it's over. I can't say anything to that. Like, that's a fair criticism. So, like, to say, like, oh, well, 16, didn't they make Forspoken? Didn't Forspoken, like, not land for everybody? Yeah. Like, that's
I like Forspoken. I like
valid.
Forspoken. I think and this goes back to kind of the price of it. Like at $40, I would buy Forspoken again. Easy. I don't regret paying $70. I was excited for it. I was like, oh, let's give it a shot. And then I played it and I beat it relatively quickly. I'm playing through the DLC. In fact, actually Square Enix reached out and they sent me the DLC because I just bought the base version. And I've been enjoying that playthrough with the DLC as well, and makes some changes. It does a couple of things that affect the core game, and like it's a fun game. Like, is it $70 worth? I wouldn't spend $70 on it. I'd say if you find it for $40, you're gonna enjoy it. Like there's some really cool things to enjoy about it. But there's also these. I feel sometimes these like hate campaigns and bandwagon campaigns, and I do feel like that is kind of what we're starting to see build up with the 16 online drama specifically. And I start to go, and this is just the conspiracy theorist in me. I'd like to hear your thoughts. Final Fantasy 16, in my mind, haven't played it yet. I feel like it's a game of the year contender. Like, I do have that belief. Now, that doesn't mean I'm right at all by any means. It's just kind of this
Who's
feeling.
running?
Tears of the Kingdom. 16.
People are saying Spider-Man's going to join them.
Spider-Man, and people say Starfield, as one of the things that they think has that. Which,
I still don't know what that game is.
Who knows? I have no freaking clue. Is
Best
it a game?
case, it's Fallout in space.
Fallout in space.
That doesn't sound like game of the year. It sounds like that game.
In chat saying RE4, I guess the remake there.
Oh yeah, that was well received.
Yeah, so it's like all in all, like, and there could be kind of a surprise hit out there or two, but that's just the general feeling that I've had as I've consumed.
So it's stiff competition. Like 16 could be a great game and not win game of the year. Like Tears of the Kingdom is amazing.
Correct. And so here's the conspiracy theorist to me though, like, because Tears of the Kingdom is console exclusive, running at that beautiful 20 frames per second on the Switch.
Sold over 10 million copies in the first 3 days.
Hogwarts, baby. That's what chat. Like,
Breath of the Wild's at 31.5 million lifetime copies. I bet Tears of the Kingdom catches it.
Yeah, Octopath Traveler 2, maybe even. Like, we could probably do our own just show on, hey, let's guess game of the year.
Tears of the Kingdom will end the year in the top 50 games sold of all time.
So, well, it's a Nintendo game. I think there's an already inherent bias that is about it, and it is platform exclusive. 16 is platform exclusive, but I think that there's going to be this feeling that the gamers got robbed because, let's face it, like Sony wrote a check, Square Enix cashed a check. I don't blame Square Enix for cashing a check. I wish that whole system didn't exist. But this isn't, I'm not in charge of the world. So I do have this feeling, though, that because of that, like, we might see, it's just like people just being jerks about it.